Form 8453-TE, Tax Exempt Entity Declaration and Signature for e-file. So this is a e-file declaration and signature form that you might see for electronic filings of a wide variety of tax returns that are considered tax exempt entities. So we'll go through each part of this declaration form. We'll talk about what the difference is between this and some other forms you might see, and then we'll kind of wrap up with instructions on what to do. So the first part, so there are three parts to this. It is one page, and most of this is pretty much signature and declaration type information. But what you're going to do is you're going to determine in part one the type of tax return that you're filing. So in this case, we've got Acme tax exempt charities, and then this is their employer ID number. And let's just imagine that they are filing this form to accompany a form 990. So 990 would be the tax exempt organization form tax return. What you would do is you would include, you would just check this and then enter whatever the amount is from the corresponding part of that form. So let's just say that their total revenue was $150,000, and that was reported on Form 990, Part 8, Column A, Line 12. You would put that amount in there. And that's it for Part 1. So a couple of key things. One, you're going to check exactly one box here, only one box, not fewer and not more than one. And then whichever box you select, you're going to enter the corresponding amount as instructed right here on the corresponding B block. So if you're using IRS Form 990T, you would use this, and then you would enter the 6B amount, which is the 990T Part 3, Line 4. You would enter that here. So if you're using tax software, this is probably just going to automatically spit out based on the information that you provided. If you're completing this manually, you're going to have to actually go to the corresponding tax return. So not all of these are necessarily nonprofit organizations. This form right here is for a private foundation. Some of these are different types of trust tax returns, like a split trust return. Some of these, so this is kind of a catch-all form to accompany. And again, this is for what would be considered a tax-exempt entity. Example, Form 990T is used for a lot of different tax situations, but one of them that is used for is for self-directed IRAs to report something known as unrelated business income tax, or UBIT. So you would complete this to accompany the Form 990T, even though this is clearly not a nonprofit organization, association. The 990T is filed by the Roth IRA or the IRA, and that is technically known as a tax-exempt entity for that purpose. So you pick the tax return that you're filing, and then you're going to put the corresponding income or tax or assets amount here. If that block in your tax return is blank, you'll leave the B block blank. If that amount has a 0, then you would enter 0. That is directly from these instructions right here. If you're filing Form 8038CP or 5330, then you can enter dollars and cents. Everyone else should enter whole dollars. Generally speaking, the IRS rounds up for any cents figure that's 50 cents and higher, and they round down for 49 cents and lower. In part 2, you're going to do a couple of things. So this is the declaration of the officer or the person that would be subject to tax in this situation. And they're going to do three things. In box 11A, by checking that, they're going to authorize debit withdrawals. So if there is a tax calculation, then they would authorize the Treasury Department to pull the taxes out from that account in this situation. And they also authorize any banks or financial institutions involved to receive confidential information that's required to answer questions and resolve payment-related issues. So if you want to revoke a payment that you've previously authorized, you need to contact this phone number. That's the U.S. Treasury, and it has to be at least 2 business days prior to the settlement date of the payment. If you click the box in 11B, this means that you're filing a copy of this return with a state agency or more than one state agencies that regulate charities as part of an IRS Fed state program. And you're certifying that this electronic disclosure consent allows the IRS to share information with those agencies. And then finally, bottom here, you're stating whether or not you're the officer or the person subject to tax. You're going to reiterate this. So ACME, tax exempt charities. You're going to repeat the EIN. And then you would sign, date, and enter the title if applicable. Part 3 is completed by a tax return preparer, a paid return preparer. If they're the electronic return originator, which basically means they're electronically filing your tax return, they would complete this section right here. They would check if they're your tax preparer. Nowadays, most of your tax returns are prepared by someone who's also an ERO. So they would complete all of this information here. If they're, for some reason, still filing paper returns, then you would see this right here. And then this gets filed with your tax return. It's pretty straightforward. So so people do ask, why is this being filed when you're already filing a tax return? And the answers are pretty simple. So you're authenticating an electronic form of any of those tax returns. You are also authorizing either the electronic return originator or an intermediate service provider. This is all big fancy terminology for whoever's actually submitting the electronic files related to your tax return. You're giving them permission to do that. And finally, you're authorizing a debit payment for federal taxes if you owe them. And there are certain categories of tax returns where you might actually owe a tax payment. So let's go back to the private foundation, or this. You might not owe a tax payment here, but we're going to enter that anyway. But you would, if you're paying taxes on behalf of someone, then you would check this box. So we're not checking the box because we're not doing that. But we might check the box in 11B just so that the IRS can share this with one or more state agencies. So again, this gets filed with your exempt organization's tax return, and there's additional guidance here based on the type of form that you're filing. Also, a good thing to note, this also accompanies IRS Form 8868, which is the 6-month tax extension form that people may file if they need an extension for their tax return filing. You would still file this to go along with your extension form. So that's all we have for this form. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's usually automated in all of the tax software, and this is just an extra form that gets generated and processed for signature. But it is important to know what you're looking at. So we'll put in links in the show notes to both the article, which goes into much more depth, step by step, and with a lot more explanation on all of these tax forms and the different situations you can encounter. We'll also put links to resources we've created on other tax forms that might be relevant here. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.